The rise of antibiotic resistance is leading to untreatable infections which can affect anyone of any age in any country. As we observe World Antibiotic Awareness Week under the theme, Seek Advice from a Qualified Healthcare Professional Before Taking Antibiotics, the Ministries of Health and Agriculture will be engaging in a series of activities to make you more aware. Welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson. We have an interesting program lined up just for you. As this week on Issues and Answers, we'll be sailing the seas with Rear Admiral Peter Brady as he highlights developments in the maritime industry. Stay tuned for more.
The Scientific Research Council is bringing reliable, accurate, and efficient analytical testing services to you. Investors, manufacturers, and service operators, protect yourself and consumers by ensuring that your product and environs are safe and secure. Come to us to test your food, cosmetics, potable and recreational water, environmental air quality, trade effluent, and to conduct shelf life studies for products. The SRC conducts on-site sampling, or you can submit your samples to our offices at Hope Gardens Complex, Kingston 6. The Analytical Services Department Laboratory is certified locally and internationally and is accredited ISO 17025. For more information, visit our office or send an email to prinfo@src-jamaica.org or call us at 927-1771-4. The Scientific Research Council, making science, technology, and innovation work for you.
Hydrographic survey is the science of measurement and description of features which affect maritime navigation. Such a project is being undertaken here on the island. Rear Admiral Brady tells us more about this project, which is funded by the UK.
Thanks for joining us for Issues and Answers. I'm Ian Boyne. We are at sea today. We're speaking with the Director General of the Maritime Authority of Jamaica and the Chairman of the National Hydrographic Committee, Rear Admiral Peter Brady. There's a very interesting project being funded by the UK Hydrographic Office, which involves the Kingston Harbour and Portland Beet, among others. And Rear Admiral will talk to us about this project and situate its importance for us. We thank you so much for your company. Rear Admiral, good to have you on the show. So we are at sea today, but not at sea in terms of the information that we will call from you. So there is this important project to carry out hydrographic survey. Tell us what that involves, what it is, and the benefits to Jamaica.
Well, thank you for having me on the program. Hydrographic surveying really is a science of determining the depths of water, of the ocean, the seas, any body of water, but also with the kind of sophisticated equipment that they use these days, you can also determine the configuration of the seabed and to some extent even the quality of the seabed, the type of seabed that there is. So Jamaica has hydrographic charts, nautical charts, that were produced many, many years ago from surveys that were very, very old. In the very old days, they used to drop a line over the side with a piece of lead. A lead line, it used to be called, to determine depths. Well, the only problem with that is that you're only getting the depth of water below the ship. And the intervening areas were not being captured. And so the last time that any real comprehensive survey was done in Jamaica was between 40 and 100 years ago.
40 and 100 years?
So you can imagine how out of date or
nautical
nautical
in terms of the information that we currently have, yes?
Precisely. So through the Commonwealth Maritime Economies Program, which is one that is funded through the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office, small island developing states in the Commonwealth have been afforded the opportunity to explore and exploit the potential of their marine spaces. And one of the ways in which you can do it is to make sure that ships on which so much of our trade depends are safe to operate in our waters with up-to-date navigation charts. So the hydrographic charts, therefore, need to be current, basically. We asked for this assistance through the UK Hydrographic Office, and we are now, right now, getting this kind of assistance from them through this Commonwealth Maritime Economies program. And that means that places such as Kingston Harbour, which, as you know, is the world's 7th largest natural harbour, but the data is very, very old. And in order to attract the kind of maritime investments that we need, not only with ships coming to Jamaica, but also maritime services that we need to provide to support these ships, we need to have modern surveys. But it's also an international obligation on our part, because we are a signatory to the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, called the SOLAS Convention. That convention deals with safety in all its aspects, and we are obliged to produce navigation information that's current and accurate. We haven't been living up to our obligations recently. But now with this project coming on stream, you mentioned Kingston Harbour and the Portland Bight, two areas that are for great development, great maritime development. We will now be able to, once the hydrographic surveys have been completed and the data now transition to charts, to nautical charts, we will now be able to produce current, highly accurate data, hydrographic data, that ships will feel much, much more comfortable with coming here.
So there is a multiplicity of benefits that will flow from our having up-to-date information, up-to-date hydrographic information.
Yes, I mean, when you look at Portland Bight, for instance, that survey is very, very old. Bauxite ships leaving Rocky Point are not loading to their capacity because the data on the charts are very old, very, very old.
Outdated.
So we're not therefore realizing the economic benefits, the potential of the economic benefits that we have in this country. When we now produce these accurate charts, ships will be able to load to their maximum draft because they will have accurate navigational data on which to navigate their charts. That's just one direct benefit.
That's a major benefit.
Yes, but look at cruise ships too. You was talking about bringing cruise ships into Kingston Harbour.
Yes.
Well, maybe one of the reasons we aren't getting them too is that our charts aren't as accurate as we, as the cruise ships, would like, because cruise ships are very, very particular about accuracy.
Absolutely.
I can tell you a situation of a case in the British Virgin Islands where, after a hydrographic survey, they were able to realize 50 times the growth in cruise shipping.
50 times?
And when you compare the ratio of the cost of the survey to just the first ship that came into that country, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Absolutely amazing. We're going to take a break at this point. So this hydrographic survey, it seems like, and also technical matter, and it is, but its implications are very practical to Jamaicans, to you, in terms of increased earnings, increased investments that will flow to the country. Rear Admiral Peter Brady is telling us about this project, which is funded by the UK. We take a break, but we'll be right back.
The Jamaica Information Service, JIS, your #1 source of government information. Tell your friends and keep watching.
Welcome back. The chairman of the National Hydrographic Committee and the Director General of the Maritime Authority of Jamaica, Rear Admiral Peter Brady, is our guest, telling us about an important technical assistance program which would help us with hydrographic surveys. What is the funding resources available, Rear Admiral, for this project?
Well, what I'll do is I'll put a value on the project itself.
Yes.
if we were to contract this job out to
Yes.
private
Private.
surveyors, a
Yes.
private hydrographic surveying firm,
Yes.
conservatively, because I don't really have the exact figures, conservatively we're talking in excess of 50 million Jamaican dollars. 50 million. The survey itself has like 6 scientists and geophysicists, surveyors, and so on.
Yes.
And just their pay alone
Oh, yes.
would take up a lot.
Yes.
And then the expanse, the scope of the work is very, very broad.
Yes.
I mean, the survey in Portland Bight, for instance, is estimated to take 50 days. But this is 50 perfect days. Sometimes we have weather, you know.
Yes.
Sometimes we have severe weather systems. And
Yes.
while it's unlikely at this time of the year for any unusual severe weather systems to take place, we still have to consider that. But that's 50 days to do that part alone. With the vessels, incidentally, which they have contracted with people
So
here.
the project has started already.
It's not started per se,
Yes.
but the equipment now is being cleared.
And are the personnel here?
And the personnel have been here for about a week.
Oh, people are
And
here.
they are going, when the equipment is cleared, they'll outfit it on the vessels, and they have to do this with great precision. Because as you can imagine, as you are going along the line of survey, you have to get your exact position. And they do this with highly sophisticated automatic identification systems. And that has to be merged with the data that's being collected. So every sounding that is taken is charted. You get the exact position, and at the end of the survey period, you transfer that data onto the chart. And as you know, you have to know where you are at all times at sea.
Yes.
But you also have to identify the soundings. And so the soundings have to be placed in a position that is mapped or charted, so to speak. So for the Portland Bight area, we're talking about 50 days. For the Kingston area, we're talking about maybe 15 to 20 days. And what we have done is we have asked them to expand the scope of the Kingston area for the south channel of Kingston Harbour. The east channel is the main channel. However, in the unlikely event that we have a major problem with the channel there and ships will be temporarily inconvenienced,
Yes.
we have to use this alternative channel. So we have asked them to also survey that channel. It's not as deep as the main channel, but at least it will be able to handle the Caribbean feeder ships that come here on a weekly basis and trade with us. So to come back to the point about the cost, then the value, it's in excess of 50 Jamaican dollars, and could
Million,
well
50
push
million.
yes, 50 million, and could well push 60 odd million.
In terms of.
Yes.
But this is overdue surveying.
Well, you know, it's a good question you said there. It's overdue. The fact that it's overdue means that we do not have the capability within the National Land Agency, which has the hydrographic surveyors, because we have highly trained people too, but we don't have the capacity to do it. We don't have the equipment. The equipment they have is very, very rudimentary, and it's what you call single scan sonar equipment. This equipment which these people have are multi-beam scanners. So as they're going along a line, they are capturing data not only under the vessel, but to the side of the vessel, on both sides. And that is highly accurate, the multi-beam.
Yes. And so we will be able to fulfill our international obligations.
That's correct.
As a result of this.
That's right. But you know, we have also been hinting to the program manager that we want to get some more beyond that. We want to be able to build up the capacity of the National Land Agency some more, so that we can take on even some more close inshore work to go to those areas, to survey those areas that the project now will not be covering, and to look even beyond that, because you know we have a big resource south of Jamaica called the Pedro Banks. That was last surveyed in the 1800s.
1800?
That's right. And there's not only living resources down there, but there are also non-living resources which we are interested in. Maybe hydrocarbons, but also there are some archaeological interests down there.
Absolutely.
As you remember in the past, we used to do some preliminary work down there.
Yeah,
When we do a comprehensive survey down there, we'll be able to pick up a lot of things, including wrecks that go way back 200, 300 years.
Yes, yes.
And then we can go to the various agencies and attract them to come back there and do all kinds of work.
Yes, yes.
But the point is that we will be having current data, up-to-date data on what exists down there, the nature of the bottom, the depths of the water. And that's for us, that's very important information at this time of Jamaica's maritime development.
Absolutely. Because the maritime is very important to Jamaica. About 93% of our trade.
93% of our foreign trade.
Yes.
Which means to say all the exports and imports go by sea.
By sea.
And this figure is actually quite comparable with the global figure. 90% of global trade goes by sea.
Yes.
So sea trade drives the world economy. We may not want to accept that, but it's a fact of life.
Absolutely.
Sea trade drives the world economy. And if you can provide for uninterrupted sea trade within your waters and be able to bring in the most modern ships with large drafts, large depths, then you know we are therefore out there capitalizing on the opportunities that exist.
This survey will help us to attract those ships.
That's correct.
Because now the ships will have the assurance that the Jamaica can manage.
That's right. They'll have the confidence to come here somewhere. And we talk about Portland Bight, you know, with the LNG project now down there. Right now, all they're doing is transporting LNG around to Montego Bay and back. But the ship that is supplying that small supply ship is a very, very large vessel. Now, it's constrained, so to speak, by draft right now. As we go along and develop some more, we may need to bring in bigger ships. And therefore, with a confidence survey, then we won't have a problem there. And they're not only just thinking about supplying, they're thinking about regasification of LNG down there. And, you know, that's big for Jamaica. Because, you know, we too are very conscious about our greenhouse gas emissions from normal fuel operations. So it's, in a word, Ian, it's good for us. It's timely. And we're capitalizing on the opportunities. But we also want to thank the UK government for recognizing and answering answering our queries about coming here.
A very important initiative indeed. We thank you so much, Rear Admiral Peter Brady, Director General of the Maritime Authority of Jamaica and Chairman of the National Hydrographic Committee, which is a part of a committee of cabinet.
That is correct, because it is the National Council on Ocean and Coastal Zone Management is a council of the cabinet.
Of the cabinet.
Of the cabinet, that's right. It's a committee of the cabinet, so to speak, and it's chaired by a minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. They form this National Hydrographic Committee because they look at all maritime policy making to make sure that, for instance, there's no overlapping, there's a coordination of effort, that we all know in the agencies what the other one is doing so that we don't create any perturbations among ourselves. And one of them was to coordinate the work of hydrographic surveys. You know, because
important work you're doing, Rear Admiral Peter Brady. Keep tuned to us here on Issues and Answers. We give you breaking news. We'll let you know what is happening, the important news. Next week I'll be back. Until then, Ian Bourne wishing you a pleasant day.
Increasing rains have been providing suitable conditions for beet armyworms to manifest on your farms. Last outbreak saw farmers engaged in several activities to combat the worms. Find out more on how you can help yourself.
Hey farmers, this is a message from RADA for Restore Order.
Measuring 15 to 30 millimeters in length, these tiny beet armyworms are responsible for millions of dollars in losses to the agriculture sector. They have ravaged hectares of onions and scallions in the New Forest Duff House Agro Park in Manchester.
Within this area, we have over 1,000 farmers, close to a minimum of about, say 800 farmers was affected, over 100 million. was estimating damages to farmers.
The Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries has spent over $18 million to assist the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, with their intervention efforts in tackling the outbreak.
When we observed that we had the outbreak of the beet armyworm in our fields, some of us didn't know what they looked like, or what stages they were. However, the RADA representative from the area was contacted, and we got some training from RADA to identify the different stages of the beet armyworm, from the eggs to the larva to the pupae and to the bat stage.
The intervention strategies were varied and have proven fruitful.
One of the best thing to do is to handpick, to reduce the field.
Because they're inside the leaf of the scallion, the chemical will not reach them. So what we do, we get to our buckets and we pick the leaves off, and then we apply the chemical. We use Agri, Zentar and Tracer.
Agri we mostly use for the eggs, and it controls the worms at the small stage. And the Tracer is for the worms at the small stage. Because as we know and experience, there's no insecticide that can manage the more mature worms.
The farmers were also taught how to make and set traps to catch the moth.
Well, they told us how to make the traps using a plastic bottle and wires. We connect the pheromone. It attracts the males. We attach that to the wire, and so the bats, they will be attracted to the pheromone, which has a female scent. They come to the trap and fall into the soap water. That helped us tremendously because it reduced the amount of worm in our fields. Now we are rebounding from that.
We did a simple check at this field, and what we do was to use what we refer to as the X method. So we did that by setting up 5 stations in the field. So for each station, we check 5 plants, right? And for those 5 plants, what we did is to count all the leaves on each plant and count the amount, check the amount of damaged leaf. And then we just select 1 leaf and check to see if there are any worm inside of it. And then what we realized that we find 1 worm, which is a dead worm. Simple meaning that the chemicals that we have recommended to the farmer is actually working.
As we are at a very low level of infestation that you can hardly take the worm, it is very much important that farmers pay attention with their pheromone traps in terms of the presence of the bats, so we can put in preventive measures in terms of spraying to actually prevent the re-emerging of the beet armyworm.
Antibiotic resistance occurs when bacteria changes in response to the use of antibiotic medicines. Here are some facts. 1. Today it is one of the biggest threats to global health, food security and development. 2. It can affect anyone of any age in any country. 3. It occurs naturally, but misuse of antibiotics in humans and animals is accelerating the process. 4. A growing number of infections such as salmonellosis, pneumonia, tuberculosis and gonorrhea are becoming harder to treat as the antibiotics prescribed for them become less effective. 5. Antibiotic resistance leads to longer hospital stays, high medical costs and increased mortality. Remember, your health is your responsibility, so be sure to take your antibiotics to completion and only purchase medication from certified pharmacies. Do the right thing as we aim to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. Drones are revolutionizing the media industry. But before you go out and capture all the wonderful aerial shots, here's the need to know on where not to go.
Drones, more formally known as unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, or unmanned aircrafts, are used by many persons for various purposes. In recent years, there has been an increase in drone ownership and use in Jamaica, prompting strict regulations by the authorities. Commercial drone users are required to get a special aerial work permit from the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, JCAA, each time a drone or other unmanned power-driven aircraft that flies without a human operator on board is to be used. This is important in order to address issues of aviation safety and security, as well as national security and privacy. Operators of drones and other unmanned aerial power-driven aircrafts must apply in writing to the JCAA, and the applicant must provide all details of the intended flight. The Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority mandates that drone users must not fly these devices at a height exceeding 400 feet or 122 meters above ground level. Also, recreational users must not go beyond the maximum range of 1,640 feet or 500 meters, or within 500 feet or 152 meters of an organized open-air assembly of people. Nor should these drones or UAVs be flown over or within 165 feet or 50 meters of any person. The guidelines also demand that persons not operate these aerial devices over a private or public property or dwelling without prior permission. Unmanned aerial devices should also not be operated at nights or during low visibility conditions. Persons are not to use drones or unmanned aerial vehicles to drop or discharge any item to the ground. The Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority's guidelines stipulate restricted and prohibited airspace where drones and other UAVs are either restricted or must not fly. In the restricted zones, drones are not allowed to take off unless a permit is obtained from the JCAA. Prohibited airspaces are designated where no flights by these devices are allowed. Some of the prohibited areas include Jamaica House, King's House, the Police Commissioner's Office, Jamaica Defence Force Up Park Camp, and the Petrojam Refinery. Restricted zones include flight training areas assigned to flight schools and the JDF Air Wing, Newcastle Training Base, and other JDF facilities across the island. There is a 5-kilometer or 3.1-mile radii no-fly zone for drones around aerodromes, as well as Norman Manley Sangsters and Ian Fleming International Airports. The policy in Jamaica is similar to industry practices in North America and the United Kingdom, where permission from the managers of the aerodromes and restricted or prohibited airspaces are sought prior to the issuance of a permit. So, for drone operation at or near aerodromes, communication is made with air traffic control, which will dictate flight times, which is included in the permit to the drone operator. All drone flights in prohibited and restricted airspaces will require a notice to airmen or NOTAM. The NOTAM is prepared by the JCAA and issued to the aviation industry in advance of the date the drone will operate, that is, 3 to 4 days lead time. The Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority demands that UAV users cease operation of these devices once a safety hazard is apparent and should not resume operation until the risk is resolved. All incidents that occur while using these aerial devices must be reported to the authority in order for the cause to be determined and for corrective measures to be implemented. The JCAA inspectors and law enforcement officers have the authority to intervene at any time. So, operators of drones and other unmanned aerial power-driven devices are encouraged to heed the regulations or face the penalty if the matter is brought before the court.
I hope you found our program informative. Send your feedback to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. Stay informed on our social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Or download our app on your Apple and Android devices to catch up on the go. You can also visit our website, jis.gov.jm, for more information. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.